The Bloodreaver was convulsing and shaking, still reciting his oath through the wreckage of his face, and the words were transforming him. His limbs stretched and broadened with a series of audible snaps as he turned to face the Sigmarite. His eyes blazed like the lava, and his head twisted back into shape. The aura of violence grew as he stood erect, drawing back his shoulders. Suddenly, a whole head taller than the Sigmarite. Blood rushed down his skin, not from his injuries, but boiling through his pores, popping and seething and making his whole body glisten. He howled the final word of his oath as hellish light blazed through his muscles, splashing across the fumes as he dropped his weapon, strode forwards and grabbed the Sigmarite. He lifted him over his head with a roar and snapped his back, breaking it over his shoulders like kindling. The Bloodreaver's cry silenced the crowd, but his transformation was not complete. Vedra shook her head in surprise as he discarded the dead Sigmarite and leapt across the platforms, making for the elf and the orc. As he ran, his blood-slick frame was still growing, still bursting with fresh muscle, as his face contorted into a bestial snarl. This was new. Vedra had seen other Bloodreavers try to harness the power of the oath, but it always tore them apart seconds after they killed their opponent. She had never seen someone continue growing like this, living beyond the first overwhelming flood of strength. The Bloodreaver's head was juddering as he launched himself at the orc, but he still showed no signs of collapsing. He abandoned his Morning Star, too feral to wield a weapon, and attacked with fists, staggering the orc with a storm of punches. As his fist slammed into the orc's face, the creature tumbled from the platform, but the Bloodreaver's metamorphosis was still accelerating, turning him into a heaving crimson mass. He howled, staggering back from the edge of the platform, turning on the elf. She flipped away, but the Bloodreaver was too fast. He seemed to materialize at her side, his hand locked around her throat. He dashed her brains out on the brass and hurled her into the lava. The crowd were deranged, banging weapons on the terraces, filling the arena with noise. None of them had seen anything like this. No Bloodreaver had ever managed to harness the oath so successfully. Vedra's head was pounding with the Bloodreaver's words, but then he finally started to struggle, laboring under the weight of his new muscle mass. The spikes in his head had become fast-growing tusks, coiling around his splintering skull, cutting into his face. He was still howling, but all trace of humanity had vanished from the sound. It was the cry of a wild animal. With no opponent near enough to strike, he attacked the platform, pummeling it with his fists, beating the metal with such fury that it buckled and twisted, revealing the wood beneath. Then he saw Twath and the other two tribesmen, watching him in shock, and lurched off in their direction, tumbling onto the next platform. He was now more crippled by his changing flesh than empowered by it. The muscles were so grotesquely swollen that he could barely move his legs or carry his own weight. His face had vanished beneath the folds of raw muscle and the mass of horns still twisting out of his skull.